Good evening, my friends. How's everybody doing tonight? Looks like we got a couple people in here. Hey there, Rusty. How you doing, pal? First and foremost, thank you for everybody for stopping by. This is a little bit new to me, so I'm going to do my very best here. We're going to talk a little bit about the CL matches tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about maybe some of the next projects coming up. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of how I make these things and kind of what my digital process is. Got a little something over here to show off if you guys are interested in such things. I hope that you are, since you're here watching. Yeah, and we'll kind of do like an AMA style. I know I get a lot of tweets saying like, how do I do these little model things? So I wanted to make it kind of about that. First of all, though, did anybody get to watch the Ajax game? Let's jump in those comments here, guys. Nobody? Well, that's okay. I watched a little bit of the Ajax game. I watched a little bit of the City Marseille match. City trounced them. That was ridiculous. And Ajax looked awesome for the first 35 minutes. Hey, Rachel. How are you? Yeah, it was very unlucky, Toby. It was the first 35 minutes looked fantastic, and then they fell asleep in the second half, which was just brutal. Just brutal. But I guess you'll take a draw on the road in Bergamo, yeah? What do you say to that? If it was me, I would take a draw for that away match. All right, we got Rusty watched City. Rachel, who did you watch? Jump in that chat. Let's see who you watched. There you go, Toby. Oh, somebody's watching Atletico. Scott watching Atletico. Did that one end? I turned it off before it ended, so I didn't see the final score. There was 3-2 last night. 3-2, something like that. Harvey, great question. How much has been raised so far? So you know what? We'll give you an absolute up to the minute. You guys are ridiculous in Glasgow, really. 9,624 pounds sterling raised so far for the We Ibrox model for the RFC charity, which is just unbelievable. You know, I did the mini Amsterdam Arena in the spring, and we raised like 3,000 euros, which was spectacular. We did the mini Old Trafford over the summer. Not quite that much, but this is unreal. I mean, it's going to go over 10,000 pounds tomorrow, which is just insane. So round of applause to all of you guys, really. Everybody in Glasgow specifically. Let's see what we got here. Rach, bit of both. When I got bored, switched over one or the other. Yeah, no, I did about the same thing. I had one going on the TV and I had one going on the iPad. So that was really nice. Unfortunately, we didn't get a result in either one of those. I don't know if you guys know, I have some family in France, and they are huge Marseille fans. So I have a little bit of a love for that club, although not quite as serious as some of my other loves, if you will. Atletico, do a Calderon to match your eyebrow. Yeah, maybe, man. You know what? It's funny. So somebody was asking me the other day, like, what my favorite teams are. And they were asking me what my favorite La Liga team is. And I don't have one. I really don't like Barcelona. I really don't like Madrid. I guess if I had to choose one, it would be Atletico, but I don't really like La Liga that much. And I feel like those two clubs just run the show over there. And their wage structures really screw everybody else up. So not a huge fan, me personally. So I'll tell you what, guys, let's do this. Let's start out. I'm going to do a little additional screen share here. Check this out. So this is the software that I use to do all of my digital setup work. It's called Rhino 3D. So we'll use the Ibrox model. On average, how long does it take to do a stadium? So that's a really interesting question. If it's something that I have to design from scratch, like, you know, one that I've never built before, it's a lot. And I'm going to kind of work through how this all goes and show you everything while we're talking here. It's probably 100 or 200 hours per model if I've never built it before. But once I have all of this saved, then it becomes a much easier process, because it's just a question of like printing it all out again and throwing it on the 3D printer. And then it becomes kind of like a model airplane kit, which makes it nice for me. So basically, here's the process. So for example, if we wanted, let's take like this stand, right? So we're going to go ahead and extract the surfaces, because these are called poly surfaces when they are three-dimensional. So we'll take that. So now we've got that piece. We can roll it over here. You know what? We're going to go ahead and copy and paste it back in. There we go. Then we unroll it to make it flat. And it's going to unroll right there, so we can delete that one. And we'll zoom in on it, rotate it. Then we go into our top view. Zoom in again. Then it's really easy. So we're going to go 1:1 scale. Print it as a PDF. Then we'll get Photoshop running. Then we open that PDF in Photoshop. Right? So that is that little section. So we go back here. That rectangle represents that little section of seating, right? So then once we're in here, go to the stadiums, go to Stadia. Let's get that Ibrox up here. Where are you? There we go. So this is all of the pieces for the west side of the stadium. But what I want to do is just kind of give you the examples here. So we take all of these pieces, toss them in there, get it all lined up nice. And then we delete everything out. So, oops. And we delete everything outside of that box. And now that fits absolutely perfectly. So then if we go and print this on a regular printer, yeah, it's called, sorry, Jax, it's called Rhino 3D. It's a really powerful piece of software and a really expensive piece of software. And I'm super lucky that I get a student discount on it right now. So yeah, that makes life a lot easier for me. I think Richard might know, actually. Richard, do you know how much the standard license is out without a student discount? Maybe somebody. I think it's at least $1,000 for the license, and I only pay like $99, which is pretty great. Yeah, so once we do that, here, you know what? We'll even take this a step further. Go ahead and print that out. It's going to print here in 1 second. Yeah, Scott, it's funny. It can be really easy. It can also be, a lot more challenging when you have to go into Google Earth and zoom in and find exactly like the right angle for everything. It was easy to kind of show this as an example, but if we're really going to do it from scratch, like this was already made. So if we were really going to do it from scratch, I'll give you another example here of how we would go about this. Go maps. Let's go to Ibrox. Oops. Get that satellite view. Give me 3D. Right, so then I would go in like this. I mean, that's not great because you're getting those shadows, but that might work. You know, so if I really wanted to do this from scratch, I would take that screenshot. I would load it back up in here in Photoshop. There she is. This is a critical piece, actually. If anybody's going to try to do any of this stuff at home, thank you, Jax. I always make sure that I change everything to 300 DPI so that when it physically prints on the printer, it's always giving me like the best resolution that I can get. You know, laser jets and inkjets usually don't go too much higher than 300 DPI. So I usually just kind of stick it at that. Right. So if I go ahead and then crop this, then there's a couple of different tools that we can use Photoshop wise to get that looking perpendicular. Yeah, that's all right on that side. Use that skew on the other side. That looks straight. What do you guys think? We can probably tweak that a little more. There we go. No, still no. Haha, that's what I'm talking about. Right, so now we could take that, copy it, throw it back in there. Yeah, see, we're dealing with pretty much the same thing here, right? So it just kind of like sits on top of that. And, you know, depending on what we're doing here, it could be stretched a little bit if it's only you know, that's only, what is that, like 7 or 8 pixels. So we can just stretch that up. Delete it. And then, ta-da! So then we would go and cut that out and paste it right on the 3D print. And that's my process. Anybody got some questions for me? I would love to answer anything you might want to know. AMA style. Yeah, Richard Rhino's about 1,000 in the UK. That sounds about right. Jax, what's Tekla? I don't know Tekla. I know Revit a little bit. I know Maya, 3D Max. It's pretty much the standard stuff that they use in school. But yeah, Rhino's the software for me. And I'll tell you what, we can pull up a couple other models. We can look at, let's have a look at, do you like Revit? And yes, John, so I used to do all of this only from a regular printer, and I would print it out and I would kind of tape it onto like real thin cardboard. It's called like poster board or museum board or something. And as I learned 3D printing in school, in fact, you can see my 2 3D printers over there. I use a Creality Ender 3 and I use a Creality CR10 for bigger stuff. And so like as I learned how to use the 3D printer and kind of got better at it, I've really moved almost all the way to 3D printing all the pieces now. Let's see here. Rachel, what's the hardest project you've ever done? I tell you what, that IAX model was super hard, and I'm going to show you why. You know what? Let's get that one open up here. It was really hard, but so satisfying in the end. Where is it? Stadiums. Where are you? I seem to have misplaced my file. That's not good. Unless I'm just not seeing it. Oh, there you are. So the big challenge with this one, come on, there we go. We hide that. The big challenge with this was getting all of these stanchions glued in and perfectly vertical, because if anything's like off tilt, especially at this really small scale, it becomes really obvious. So kind of making sure that every piece is like glued in straight and it's not off kilter, north, south, east, west. That was the big challenge for this. And there's like 54 of them as you go all the way around. And if anything's out of place or like tilted the wrong way, then the roof line doesn't sit properly or the seat backs won't sit properly. So that was really time consuming. But when it was done, it just came out really, really good. I was really happy with that one. I think that was one of my favorite ones. Let's see what else we got in the chat. Tesla's way more powerful. What gave me my first inspiration? Okay, so you guys probably know, because I think they sell them in the UK and Europe also. There's a company called Danbury Mint, and they make these. They're different size ones. They make really small ones. They make some bigger ones, but they're ceramic, right? They look like they're hand painted, but they're not hand painted. And they're interesting models because there's not a whole lot else out there in the market. And my grandpa bought me one when I was like 12. And I was always into Legos and Connects and all those other kind of toys and building like model airplanes and model cars and stuff. Like that was my thing. And he brings home this little model of the Cleveland baseball stadium, which had just opened at the time. And he left and I was like, oh, you know what? I could do better than that. So I like grabbed a whole bunch of cardboard and start cutting stuff out and markers and colored pencils and all of that. I think I have a photo of that somewhere, but you know what? I'll post it. I'll post it on Twitter and Instagram later. There was like the very first one I ever did. So yeah, to answer the question, Richard, that was definitely the inspiration for the very first one that I did. Now we're going to pull it back out here. So this is our Dortmund Stadium. With all of its glorious little details. And actually, I want to show you guys something because I haven't posted any photos of it yet. Check this out. So, everybody knows the famous big yellow beams that go on top of the stadium there. And what I want to show you is we've actually built these so that you can see there's this little channel dug into the side, where it glues onto the edge of the stadium. And we're gonna run yellow lights up to the top of the roof, so it like glows yellow like the thing really does. And I am excited about that. I actually just finished the lights the other day. So tell me the story behind the name. Sorry about that, Rusty. I'm a little late. Before I had this Twitter account, I was just kind of posting them on my personal one. And people used to quote the famous Zoolander thing where they would go, "What is this? A stadium for ants?" And it was annoying at first. I was like, and after a while, I got this joke so many times. I was like, oh yeah, no, I've heard this before. And then finally I said, you know what? We're just going to steal this and run with it. So if you haven't seen Zoolander, the original Zoolander, go back and watch Zoolander for sure. It's really funny. And that's where I got my name from. Let's see, John. So would you be selling this flat pack? No, I'm not going to sell them as flat pack for a couple of different reasons. Number one, that kind of starts to dabble into the commercial product kind of world, and you run some more trademark and copyright risks with that. Whereas if I'm just producing them like as bespoke art, like if I wanted to sell one to you just as a one-off piece of artwork, I think I'm pretty safe legally. But if I start selling them as like a put it together yourself kind of kit, then I start leaning towards that legal issue, which I'm really trying to stay away from, as I'm sure you can imagine. Am I drawing these from scratch, or is there a template you use? So I do them all from scratch, Richard, and I kind of came up with my own scale, which I can show you an example here. So when I started doing them, I was doing baseball stadiums, and this is actually a commission that I'm working on. This is the St. Louis Cardinals Stadium. That's from Major League Baseball, and I'm a huge baseball fan also. And what I tried to do for the very first one, I wanted it to sit on my desk. So I did, and I know that we use the imperial measurement system, which is ridiculous, and we should be in metric like everybody else, but we're not. So the baseline from home plate to first base, or any of the four, is 1 inch. So I kind of created my own scale based off of that, if that answers your question regarding dimensions. And then it's just a question of setting one template for each sport, right? And then overlaying the Google images on top of that and making sure that everything's kind of close to the same scale. Some of them are a little bigger, some of them are a little smaller, but more or less they're in the same thing. Let's see what else we've got here. Scott Meachin, zoom out a bit and you'll see my own home. All right, Scott, tell me where it's at. Where are we at, man? Oh, Scott's gone. That's okay. Anybody else got questions? I want to talk about yes, that's exactly what I want to talk about. And thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. It kind of blows me away that these have taken off the way that they did. Like, the way I got started doing this was just a hobby. I never really thought that people would like them or anything. And it's kind of taken off on a life of its own. You are known globally within circles now, dude, and been on TV over here. I have been on TV over there. I was on the BBC earlier this summer, which was pretty sweet. How do your own take to the baseball stadiums? I mean, I donated my Cleveland Indians model to the Cleveland Indians 2 summers ago. They gave it away, or they auctioned it away as part of their big. They have like a marathon charity event every summer for like a whole weekend. And I think it raised $3,000, but that was from that was from an auction as opposed to a raffle. So this is an interesting thing. I prefer the raffles because it's important to me that these things wind up in the hands of somebody who's a real fan. No matter what stadium it is, no matter what club it is, these are supposed to represent those memories that we all have, and everyone's different and everyone's home feels like home. And to only do these as auction, where it kind of removes the majority of the fan bases and it's kind of only available to rich people, I don't really like that. And so the raffle aspect works really well for me, and it gives me that nice feel good that I know it's going home with somebody who's going to love it because they're a fan. And that's the most important thing for me. It's not about keeping them. It's not necessarily about how much money we raise, although of course it's wonderful to raise a bunch. It's just really nice that I can kind of go away at night and say, wow, my work sits in people's houses all over the world and it's important to them. And that's what matters. So back to Rachel for a second, because I want everybody's input on this, if you guys don't mind. What is my next project? Well, there's a couple of different things that we can think about here. Is everybody familiar with the famous Belgrade derby? Red Star, Partizan? Yes, can I get like some thumbs up or something here? No? Nobody knows it? Well, go watch the Copa 90 Derby Days story about it because it's absolutely spectacular. And so I'm thinking what I want to do. There we go. There we go, Gomez, man. Yes. So what I'm thinking I want to do, I already started designing it, so I'll pull it up. I want to do the Maracana in Belgrade, and I actually bought little like mini smoke bombs, and we're going to put little sparklers in it, and we're going to light little matches in it and maybe burn the whole thing down, because that's what they do over there, and it's crazy. It's really simple. Yeah, so I'm thinking this might be the next one. I don't know if it'll actually be the very next one, but this is definitely going to happen one of these days. Does anybody have any other suggestions? What do you guys think would be a cool one to do next? Does anybody have any connections in, I don't know, we haven't done one in Italy yet. We haven't done one in Spain yet. We haven't done Portugal. We haven't done Turkey. I could do Besiktas. Would love. Have I been asked to do commissions for actual teams or is it fans? So I was asked to do a commission, but San Siro is a great call, Rusty. San Siro is a great call, especially if they're going to tear it down, man. How sad is that? Yeah, I think San Siro's got to get up on that list. But then the question becomes, do we do it for Inter or for Milan? Because they don't get along, and we'd have to pick one of them in order to do it proper for charity. So maybe we could talk about that as a group and kind of come up with a strategy. Yeah, back to your question, Richard. I have been asked by my local NFL team to do a commission, but I told them no. I don't really like the NFL anymore, and they just called me at a bad time. I was super duper busy with school that semester and couldn't really say yes to them, but I have not called them back here. Yeah, John, Alliance. I'm working on it. As a matter of fact, we can pull that one up as well. It's really difficult, and it's going to take a real serious 3D print job because obviously of the way that facade works. But I'll pull it up and show you what I have so far. It's not a whole lot. So the tough part here is, I have to use a piece of software called Grasshopper to get the facade right, like with those little bubbles that are all over it. But yeah, I have the shape so far. I mean, that's pretty much what it's going to look like. But yeah, again, it's like adding that texture to the outside. Yeah, Richard, Bernabeu is an interesting one. I kind of go back and forth. Like I said, I don't really like La Liga. I don't really like Madrid, and I don't really like Barca. Although the Barca project coming up, like the real project with the upgrades, and they're going to add a roof and they're going to remove some of the upper level seats. It could be a really interesting one as well. So I'm kind of debating. At the same time, Atletico opened that new facility and it's beautiful. So maybe that's a nice way to go too. I find that sometimes doing like a tier down, Glasgow aside, of course, doing like a tier down from your huge, Uniteds, Chelseas, Bayern Munichs of the world, I tend to get a better response from some of the not smaller clubs. It's a really bad way to say it, but you guys know what I mean. Like comparing Dortmund to Munich, for example, Munich, I don't know that I would get the response that I would get from Dortmund fans because the second tier tends to respond a little bit better, and I'm not really sure why that is. Wembley's an interesting call. Volksparkstadion's an interesting call, although I'm a little hesitant to do anything else in Germany right now, especially because if you guys haven't seen, there's this 12-year-old kid on Twitter. I think his @ is Away Day Joe. He's 12 years old, and he builds these gigantic Legos of only German stadiums, and they're phenomenal. And he gets all kinds of news, and they invite him to the stadiums, and they put his giant Lego models on the fields. They're fantastic. So if you haven't checked him out, check him out. But I don't want to step on his toes. You know what I mean? Like, he's a kid, and he's a good kid. Glasgow, I'm very sorry. I really need to solve that one. And I pride myself on linguistics. So I apologize for that. It's kind of been built into me, and I'm going to retrain myself. I promise you. Glasgow, I promise. Let's see, Rusty. Yeah, it's sad, but it's so old inside the ground, buddy. You had to pee in a hole. Okay. That's interesting. BBVA. You know, I've got some friends in Houston. They don't like me anymore, though, because after the Astros got caught cheating, I said, to hell with that team. And now those people don't like me anymore. And that's fine by me. I suppose I could call them up and see if they would be interested, though. Let's see. Glasgow. Yeah, I can't. Don't ask me to do a Scottish accent. I'm only going to embarrass myself. I never knew this, Richard. 38 English and always said Glasgow. See that? See, even the English. Well, you know what? Now we're going down a bad road because we're going to start fights and arguments, and I'm not really interested in that. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Gomez, man, because, yeah, I got issues with your Astros, pal. I have no issues with you personally, of course, but I got serious issues with the Astros. I'm a huge baseball fan, and it bothers me. It really does. You could do me another OT just so I can pretend to me sitting in my seat. Well, that's another thing that we should talk about. So I have actually been talking about I've been talking about this with some copyright and IP attorneys recently to see if it's possible to do this. So I'm going to launch a forward-facing custom shop pretty soon here. So I'm going to make these available for order. I got out of there, so I don't care. You made a good decision, Gomez, really. Yeah, so I'm going to open up like a little custom order shop in the next 6 weeks here. We'll have a couple of different options, a couple of different price points. They're not going to be super cheap, but I mean, I think you guys, especially everybody here tonight, everybody knows that there's a lot of time and work that goes into them, and I'd love to be able to sell them. And if people are interested, then we'll see how it all goes. And if I do, it would certainly give me opportunities to make some more cool YouTube videos like the one that I posted for Dortmund the other night, Union Berlin. That's interesting. You know what? That brings up an interesting subject. So I kind of notice in the States, generally speaking, the biggest cities in America all have a huge team. The New York Yankees, the Boston Red Sox, the Los Angeles Dodgers. These are huge, successful clubs. Dortmund is a tiny little city, and they have one of the most successful clubs in Europe. Manchester's not a tiny little city, but it's not London. And forever and ever and ever and ever, Manchester United was the biggest club in England. And who else came close until Arsenal got good in the, 70s, 80s? It's just interesting how that works for me. So when I hear stuff like Union Berlin, it always fascinates me because how is it possible? Rachel, it still is. You know what? I'm not so sure anymore. And I hate to say that, but I'm really not. Look at how they run our club. I say our club like, anyways, I do support United in the Premier League. Most of you probably know that. I actually wonder if it's still the biggest club in England. I really do. And I don't mean that as like a pot shot. I just look at what they're doing to us. We're going to wind up the next Arsenal. And it's really sad, but that's the way this is going. Anyways, it's interesting to me how Berlin, of all cities, has never had a super successful club. And that all kind of plays into how I make these decisions and why I choose the stadiums that I do. Because again, it's all about the passions of the fans, right? And these are meant to be little memorializations of all of the memories that you had in your home stadium. And I want to be able to take that, shrink it down, and put it on your desk. Look at it while you're working. If it's inspirational, that's awesome. If you just like it because it's art, that's cool too. But that's my goal is to capture those moments. And so I spend a lot of time doing research. I go watch documentaries. I watch highlight videos if I'm not familiar with some of the famous moments, because it's so important to capture those moments. And if I don't know about them, right, that's why I interact so much on Twitter. That's why I ask questions of fans. Like the Ajax fans were unbelievable. Maybe Toby's still in here. I don't know if Toby's still watching. Toby sent me this, by the way. This is my new Ajax shirt, and it says "Ants" in Dutch on the back, and it's like the greatest thing ever. Did you know Sir Alex? Of course, of course. Yeah, so I tend to ask a lot of questions if I'm not familiar with the club's history. And the Rangers fans were great, kind of showing me about Helicopter Sunday and all the other history. By the way, we can show this off. These are going to go out here in the pretty near future. Wow, that glare is not good, is it? This is the little Scotland trophies that I've been making. Yeah, let's see here. We've been on for 35 minutes. That's not so bad. What else? Does anybody think tiny jerseys? Yeah. Oh, sorry, dude. That's my man. Sorry about that. So if you guys don't follow him, check this out. You know what? I'm going to put it in the comments. It's just at Tiny Jerseys, right? On Twitter and Instagram. Let's see here. I thought the United fans were amazing with this. Yeah, exactly, Rusty. Exactly. Like, what happened here? And so this is kind of what I mean. Like, United's meant to be the biggest club in the world, and this isn't egotistical. This is not about me. But by sheer numbers, you would think that the biggest club in the world would raise a pretty penny for children in hospital in Manchester. Well, it raised like £1,300, and Rangers fans are about to break £10,000, which is ridiculous and beautiful, and it blows me away. But it does kind of make me think, wow, what's the United fan base really all about? Sorry, I want to go get that tiny stadiums or tiny jerseys for you guys. Yeah, at Tiny Jerseys. I'm gonna put it in the chat here. Tiny Jerseys. That is on Instagram and Twitter, and his stuff is amazing. I thought they were hand painted when I first saw it, and I guess he uses decals. Maybe he can explain a little bit in the comments. His stuff is freaking fantastic, and I highly recommend that you look over at all of his stuff. Let's see here. John, I remember I took my daughter to her first Rangers game, and halfway through she asked when we were going to. Oh, no. Imagine the looks I got. But great memory. Said, oh, I'm so sorry, man. That's awful. Well, it's really nice to be able to share those kind of memories, especially for somebody who's passed. Yeah, that's a funny one. That's a funny one. Let's see, a bit of both. Yeah, I'm telling you guys, you got to check this stuff out. You got to check out Tiny Jerseys because they're absolutely spectacular. Let's see, what else can we do here? Yeah, no, I respect that, John. I really do. Let's hold on to those memories, right? That's what we have to do. So, in fact, I'll tell you what. You guys want to see the you want to see the 3D printer software? So this is called Cura, and this is the software that we use. Ross, you couldn't have said it better, man. They really are. It's blown everything else out of the water. SIP logo. So this is how these things sit. What's my favorite stadium? Oh, man. Okay, you got to be more specific than that. Give me a sport because it's different for each sport. You should do half and that's like those stupid American football jerseys where they get like half one team and half the other team, which is absurd. Yeah. I thought about doing the goal that Roof scored for Rangers in the week in the Europa League was unbelievable. And so I figured since he scored from the halfway line, maybe I need to do like half of that stadium. So this is the 3D print software that I use. So once we have any geometry for, you know what? I got a better idea. Let's do this. Let's take this apartment block here. We're going to export it as an STL file. And go right to the desktop, call it Ibrox. Yeah, half and half scars, Rusty. That's exactly right. They're terrible. I've never bought one of those, and I never will. I don't even understand the ones that they sell outside of the grounds all the time on like European nights where it says like Barcelona and Manchester United. I'm like, who buys that garbage? Neutrals? I'm being serious. Who can somebody tell me who buys that crap? Is it just neutrals who want like a memorandum of the night? I guess, but how many of those could you possibly sell? Anyways, so if we take that geometry that we just created and we load it into Cura Tourists, yeah, exactly. Oh, that was too big. And we can go ahead and scale that down. You know what? Let's just do that at like 50. There we go. So then, if we use the slicer, NFL, baseball, football, all right, I will come to that in 1 second. So once you slice it, then you can preview it, and this is really cool, guys. You'll appreciate this. So that is exactly layer by layer how the machine plans to print the geometry. See that? So we can go all the way down, and that is going to show you literally one layer at a time how the machine is going to build the geometry. It's very cool stuff. Not awesome? All right, let's get back to some questions here. Oh, let's see. NFL, baseball, football. Well, so I'm torn on football. I haven't been to Ibrox, so you can't get mad at me yet. Once I've been, I'll make my own judgment because I'm all about experience. And I talk about that a lot, like in architecture classes. In fact, I got into an argument with one of my professors this morning who went off on this theoretical tangent, and I told him that it was crap because it doesn't mean anything. And if your building doesn't offer users the proper experience, then I don't really care what it looks like. It's useless. So my favorite football stadiums are the Amsterdam Arena and the Westfalenstadion in Dortmund. If you guys haven't been, go to Dortmund. Just go. The yellow wall, it's 25,000 people, and it looks like it's 500,000 people. Let me see if I can pull up this video that I took while I was there, actually. It's unbelievable. And I had the time of my life, and I had these amazing experiences. The fans on the train are all like drinking these gigantic bottles of beer, and they were like, no, you have to drink with us on the train because this is your first time here. They're really, really welcoming, and it was a super duper experience. And I think here we go. Here we go, guys. This is ridiculous. Look at that pogo. Look at that pogo. Yeah, it's incredible. Ross, man, you got to go. I'm telling you, you got to go. Half and half scars. We go to the English game, makes it. Yeah, it seriously does. It seriously does. I agree with that 100%. Favorite stadium that I've been to in any sport? Yes, Michael, I do plan to visit Ibrox as soon as freaking possible. Obviously, that's not on the cards at the moment, but hopefully by next summer we'll be able to do that. So I've gotten a couple of offers from some of the people on Twitter for some tickets, and I would love to experience that old firm. Like, I need that. That's on my bucket list, like high up on my bucket list. What do I think is the biggest derby game then? Whoo! I don't know. I mean, obviously the Old Firm is, if it's not number one, it's got to be top 5, right? I have heard that some of the derbies in Istanbul are out of control. I haven't been, but I've heard that. I've heard that the Milan derby is weird. I've heard that they're like friendly with each other until the game starts, and then once the game starts, they hate each other, but as soon as it's over, they're back to being friends, which is weird to me. If you want to know about what the biggest rivalry in America is, it's Ohio State versus the University of Michigan college football. And my grandpa was a huge Ohio State fan, so that's kind of how I became a sports fan and why I am the way I am. Yeah, man, I've been studying architecture. I just finished my undergraduate degree at the end of last year, and I'm working on my master's right now, which I will finish this coming summer. And as soon as I'm done, I'm out of here. My plan is to move to Amsterdam and make models, create cool architecture, and go to derbies. That's all I really want to do with my life. What else we got here? Oh yeah, back to my favorite. So my favorite baseball stadium is obviously the Cleveland Indians Stadium. It's called, if you want to look it up, it's called Progressive Field. It used to be called Jacobs Field back in the day, and like, kind of similarly to the way that you guys grew up at Ibrox or Old Trafford, I really grew up in that ballpark. My dad had like a half a season ticket package with his business partner growing up. So man, I was probably at 20 games a summer as a kid, and that's where this all comes from, right? Because it holds all these memories for me, and it holds all of these emotions. And I still, I'm 38 years old, and I walk into that building even today, and I feel it, right? You guys know exactly what I'm talking about because you all have the same thing, and you have all of those waves of emotions come back, and you remember the moments that happened there that made you so happy or so sad. And then, as someone who likes to build stuff, it kind of became an easy decision from there. It just kind of makes sense to me. So, yeah, that's what I'm at. Major League. Yeah, but see, this is funny. Major League was not filmed in Cleveland. It was filmed in Milwaukee at a place called County Stadium, which looked just like the old Cleveland Stadium. So, yeah, you can go and check that stuff out on Wiki. It'll tell you all about where it was filmed and everything. But when the Indians went to the World Series 4 years ago, we actually had 3 big-time businessmen in Cleveland called Charlie Sheen, paid for him to fly in for the game, and paid for his ticket. Let's see. PVT housing. I don't know what that means, man. Private housing. I'm not really interested in housing. I mean, housing's cool sometimes. It's not for me. I like long span structure. I'd like to do convention centers. I'd obviously like to design stadiums, bigger museums, galleries, things like that really give you a chance to kind of play with the context and play with the surrounding buildings. I think it's really important. And I find that a lot of residential architecture is really just about the one building isolated without much consideration for the buildings around it. And it's not my favorite kind of architecture. River Plate and Boca Juniors is super tasty, man. Super duper tasty. I would have loved to watch that too. And if you guys haven't seen, again, I'm going to highlight the Copa 90 Derby Days. They did like a 3-part series. They sent some guy to Buenos Aires for that final, oh crap, what's it called? Their Champions League final. The grand finale, I think it's called the grand finale. And it was a 2-leg, and they didn't even get to play the second leg because the whole city rioted, and they had to play the second leg I think they played it in Madrid. They went across the world to play it because the whole city lost its mind. No, I'm not a big WWE fan, and I'm not a big boxing fan. So those are probably not for me. Let's see what else. Well, there, I've learned something that can be tomorrow's Ricky. Yeah, Ross, check that stuff out. Some of it's really interesting. Will I have to study again if you move? No. So this is the good news. with a master's degree, I don't have to do anything other than take the licensing test, and the master's degree transfers between the US and Europe. So I'm in really good shape for that, and I'm super happy that it works that way. I have heard that there are some other countries that doesn't happen, or there's not a treaty between or whatever, or a professional association. But the EU and the US have that in place. So I'm in good shape as far as that's concerned. I'm pretty good at metric already, man. So it's interesting that you bring that up, Richard, because Cura only works in metric. Like, for example, you will note here that this is all in millimeters, and you can't switch it in this software. It's 100% metric. So when I do my stadiums here, I usually, just to get like the print sizes, because Americans don't print in metric, we print in inches, which is dumb. So I have to kind of design it based on that to begin with. But then once I've got it, then I actually do go over here and transfer the entire model into a metric design, and it keeps the same dimensions. Nothing changes. It just changes from imperial to metric. And then I can dump everything directly out of there. That's why when I popped that one into Cura a minute ago, it was so big because it wasn't reading it properly. So yeah, like for example, if we took these two items straight out of the metric model and then pulled it up in Cura, see, perfect sizing. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. Copa Libertadores, man, that's the one. Yeah, Archibald, man, I'm familiar. Design those UK stadiums. Wasn't there a famous one in England that he designed? I'm pretty sure there was. Anyways, we've been on for almost an hour. This has been awesome, guys. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. I will do some more Q&As if you guys want, and obviously try to grow the channel. Thank you, Rachel. Really, it means a lot to me. Especially because I'm trying to move overseas, and it makes it really nice to feel like I've got some friends. I mean that. It makes the whole process a whole lot easier, kind of knowing that there's people around that I can call and I can go visit and go to games with, and hopefully this pandemic is over by then. So I hate to do it to you guys, but you know I'm going to have to. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, share the hell out of this if you wouldn't mind. I would love to grow this thing. And what I'm also going to be doing as the projects kind of go through, I'm going to do time lapses and post them. They probably won't be live videos. I'll do time lapses and things. We'll do more discussions about what the next project is. And hopefully we can grow this thing into a place where people can come and kind of help me make decisions and help me choose what to do next and what details to add and all that stuff. So thank you, everybody, for stopping by. And I can't thank you enough. I look forward to meeting everybody. We're all going to go to games together one day. I promise you that. I don't care if you're Toronto or Glasgow or Manchester. I'm there. I'm going to be the official ground hopper of 2022. Thank you so much for coming, guys. Yeah, I'll see y'all soon.